In this week's episode of One Piece, Bellamy is finally set free from the clutches of Doflamingo. But since he has such a hard-on for the pink string-obsessed Birdman, he decides he's still going to battle against Luffy. There's also a very amazing fight this week which involves Hajrudin fighting against Machvise, in what is honestly one of the most earth-shattering battles of the entire Dressrosa arc. If for some reason you forgot everything that happened with Bellamy's initial introduction into the series, or you've never seen his backstory before, then this is the episode for you. If you're one of those viewers who's looking for the episode to move a little quicker and get to some action, you might be a little disappointed because the first half of this week's episode is slow, but it's still a very important moment for the character of Bellamy, a character who honestly I thought was never even going to return in the One Piece series in the first place. When he was initially introduced into the series, I was honestly expecting him to just be dead. I mean, the evidence was all there. Luffy completely destroyed his cranium by smashing his skull right into his brains, and then right after that, Doflamingo actually forced one of his goons to actually kill him, but they decided to bring him back for the Dressrosa arc, and honestly, I think he is a pretty cool character. The only thing is, he completely idolizes Doflamingo in every single way. He's loved him since he was a kid, and there's no way that he's gonna quit Doflamingo, even after being set free and basically just sort of, you know, abandoned by the entire Don Quixote crime family. That's how far this guy's willing to go for Doflamingo, so he decides to bring out his classic spring abilities, which apparently are more powerful than before, and he's gonna fight against Luffy. I have a feeling it's probably gonna end just like last time. But the real reason to check out this week's episode is to see more of the random fighters from Kurita Coliseum battling against the Don Quixote family. Now, this week, they focused on the giant Hajrudin, who's fighting against Vice, who is continuously crushing him with his 10 tons of power. Basically, what he's doing is he's constantly jumping up in the air with his weight and slamming down on top of his limbs, on top of his legs, and just right down on top of his face, slamming him into the ground continuously until he's basically knocked out. But Hajrudin's pride is not going to allow him to be defeated, because ever since he's arrived at Dressrosa, things have just gone wrong, and for a guy who wants to be the king of the giants, he can't stand for this. He's been defeated in Kurita Coliseum, he still hasn't paid back his debt, and now he has got to save Zoro, because Vice is getting ready to attack him and crush him. My favorite thing about the scene, without a doubt, is just the impact and the style in which it's presented. Multiple camera angles, lots of destruction of the landscape, and you even get to see all of the damage that Hajrudin sustains during his big attack. Basically, Vice is just flying out of the sky like a damned meteorite, and he just gets right down on top of Hajrudin, but he ends up hitting him point blank with this punch. This is when they start having this little bit of a standoff where Vice is trying to crush him, and you actually get to see that all of the bones in his arms and his legs are just completely crumbling and breaking away, and all of the ground around them is just exploding in a massive crater. But luckily, Hajrudin is able to use all of his power and the last bit of his strength to push Vice and punch him all the way up into the birdcage, which slices him up and defeats him. That was satisfying! So what's the rundown on this week's episode of One Piece? Yeah, Bellamy pretty much took up most of this week's episode, but at the end of the day, my favorite thing about this one was definitely the battle between Hajrudin and Machvise. Not only that, but there were some other scenes too with some of the other members of the Don Quixote family. You still have Sai and Baby 5 who are fighting, and Baby 5 is just misconstruing every single thing that Sai is saying and thinking that basically he's just falling in love with her. She needs to be loved. She wants to help someone so desperately. And honestly, she seems like she's probably the easiest member of the Don Quixote family to actually defeat, but that's only because if you actually know like what her personality trait is, you can really manipulate that. But Sai himself just doesn't seem to really understand what's going on, and he definitely has something of a thick skull, but this is honestly going to lead, I think, to a really awesome battle, and if anything, it's going to be really funny. But as I said before, my favorite thing about this week's episode was definitely the stuff at the very end with Hajrudin. It really made me appreciate his character a little bit more, and just that big punch attack was really awesome. It was slightly censored from what we've seen in the manga version, but only so much. And honestly, I'm still surprised that Vice is still just kind of like in one big piece. I honestly imagined he was going to be cut up a lot more. But that big punch attack just looked so awesome. Anybody who's ever seen my reviews knows that I'm a big fan of like anime action, and when it comes to like big special attacks, no matter what, my favorite thing in the world is always just a good badass punch. And this week's episode definitely delivered on that. all the stuff with Bellamy at the beginning was just sort of okay, you know. Again, I'm not a big fan of flashbacks, and One Piece is definitely a series that makes great use of them, and they'll go ahead and just reanimate some flashbacks instead of just using the old footage, which I think is really unnecessary. I think they could just use the old stuff. But basically, if you wanted to learn more about Bellamy or you forgot anything about his past, it is there for you. But for fans who are like really obsessed with the series and know everything about it, it might annoy them. But still, this week's episode was still entertaining for all the other battle scenes, and all the stuff with Bellamy was still handled well, but it's still just a build-up to that battle, and of course, more battles which are going to be taking place. If you look at the preview, there's just more fighting. Pretty much from this point on in the Dressrosa arc, it's just all fighting, so at least there's going to be some action in just about every episode. Still, though, this was just sort of an okay episode, but I really liked it, especially for all the scenes at the end, and a lot of that has to do with that fact that I'm an action junkie and I am a One Piece fan, so I might be a little biased. I think most people will consider this week's episode a 3 out of 5, just an average episode of One Piece. I myself, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I thought it was really good. It was just a little slow in the first half and a little too heavy on the flashbacks. Otherwise, One Piece fans, I think should definitely check this out, especially if you've been following the anime version. Manga fans, check it out too. You might see something you like. Before you guys leave today, please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of One Piece. What do you think about the character of Bellamy the Hyena? Do you like him? Do you hate him? Do you think he has an interesting story? How do you think his battle with Luffy is going to go? And what did you think of the scene with Hajrudin this week? And what do you hope to see from the rest of the Dressrosa arc and the One Piece anime series? Please tell me in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching my review. Make sure to like it and share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel. You guys should also check out our weekly podcast show, The Powerful Nerdcast. You can watch it on our channel, or you can download the show for free at iTunes and Rogue Intel. Check the description box for more information. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.